Okay. So in today's Insights panel, we're going to be talking about recruiting and serving transfer students. We're going to start off with some data from a joint project that Niche and Phi Theta Kappa did together for secret shopping so that we can better understand how colleges communicate with transfer prospects. Then the panel today is going to be headed up by Heather Yush. She is the Associate Director of College and Transfer Relations at Phi Theta Kappa. Heather has been a higher ed professional for 14 years with roles at LSU, College of Charleston, Coffeyville Community College, and Independence Community College. Jolene Young is the admissions recruiter for the Mayo Clinic College of Medicine and has been in higher ed for 11 years. She's also worked at the University of Minnesota School of Nursing at Rochester. Last but certainly not least by any means is Mary Mercado, a Senior Director of Transfer at St. Peter's University. You'll see Mary's passion for the transfer recruitment and services soon enough, and that all is rooted in her own experience as an adult student at Hudson County Community College, who then transferred to St. Peter's, is currently pursuing her MBA. And I'm Will Patch. I'm here to be the moderator, and I'll share some research results and moderate the Q&A. I've spent 10 years in higher ed after 2 years in secondary ed. After coming to Niche, before coming to Niche, I was at Manchester University in recruiting, operations, leadership, social media, and digital strategy roles. So throughout, you can submit your questions and comments in the box on the right side of your screen. We'll cover those during the panel at the end. You can also share your takes online using the hashtag Enrollment Insights. You'll see that at the bottom of every page. So I always like to talk about why we do this. We do these monthly webinars because Niche is invested in the information you need on your schedule. We want to be a best-in-class partner, regardless of whether or not you're officially partnered with Niche or not. Our mission is to make researching and enrolling in schools easy, transparent, and free. The question that always comes up is whether or not there will be a recording of the webinar. Yes, the recording, you'll receive an email tomorrow morning with a link directly to it, but there's many other resources on the Enrollment Insights blog. You'll get an email that'll go through those. The recordings will be there, the slides, and along with other things we'll be referencing. Okay, so this secret shopping project started back in January with help from Phi Theta Kappa. They're really interested in data, as is Niche, so we work together to try and get a better understanding of how colleges recruit prospects, and specifically Phi Theta Kappa transfer prospects. This really provided a lot of information as to their support and their academic achievement. There were 19 data points that were attached to my profile, but I was really interested to know how ComFlows would be tailored to my status as a transfer student who is a Phi Theta Kappa member. So I also opted into text from colleges and said that I'd be earning my associate's degree in biology from the local community college here. No emails or texts were open before the analysis, so that it wouldn't alter the ComFlow. I was also very curious about how my location was going to be used. There are a lot of colleges in the area that I'm at, and for those that are going to be out of state, I was really curious how they were going to speak to that. And then as things went on and the pandemic hit, and it's derailed so much of everything we're doing, it became really interesting to see how they're going to recruit someone who would either have to drive a long distance or fly. At the high level, there were 50 colleges that downloaded my contact info, but only 39 of those reached out. So I was looking then, of the 55 in-state four-year institutions, only 4 reached out. And of the 8 in my metro area here, only 1 of those did. The breakdown there in terms of private and public, we were about 2 to 1 private to public. So I want you all to put yourself in the shoes of a transfer student. I think this is a really important qualitative aspect of secret shopping. You're graduating with an associate's degree in biology. I said that I had a 4.0. You're pursuing your bachelor's degree in the fall. You've been through the application process before. You've handled financial aid. In all likelihood, you've already applied to 4-year colleges before, and you may have even been accepted and prepared to enroll at some. So you have to think about, what are you looking for now? And for me, those answers are, will my credits transfer? What does financial aid look like as a transfer student? Do you have my major, and what outcomes are there? Because you have to remember that a transfer student coming in with an associate's will be a junior, and they want to hit the ground running with internships, research, career services. But what they don't really need to know about is your first year orientation, or about getting guidance counselor documentation, or even how to apply as a first year student. There were schools that sent me their first year student application checklist, which as a transfer student who's earning an associate's isn't really needed. So I had all these key data points that I wanted to keep an eye on, right? So how are those actually used? Well, the first step here, 33 of the 39 colleges who did reach out did identify as a transfer student and gave me information, but only 14 of those 39 actually recognized I was a Phi Theta Kappa student. I opted into text, and 3 of the 39 actually sent me a text. That one I can get behind. As a prospect, they might not want to reach out yet. There's some lack of clarity yet of how that is best used. But here was the one that really confounded me. I said I was earning associates in biology, and only one of the 39 colleges sent me any information about a biology major or about opportunities as a biology student. That one was a huge missed opportunity. And then location. So speaking to my need to travel, go away from home, or for the in-state schools or the one that here is in the metro area, speaking to being close to home, having that sense of community. Nobody covered location or travel. It was a confusing process to me, why we had all these data points and they just weren't being used. So look at how they actually reached out here. 37 of the 39 emailed me. Most email, I was surprised 2 didn't send any emails. It's a low barrier of entry, so that's not a surprise that was the most common. One college sent the same postcard 4 times with a different photo. So that was a little bit of a mixed opportunity there. All text and information was the same, it was just a different photo. So it's possible that this was an A/B test. They were trying to track the creatives that generate engagement. I had 3 colleges send over a view book, but only one of those was for transfer students. One of them was specifically for undergrads, which I assume was a mistake then that they sent to a transfer student. And then another was just a general one with processes for everybody. There was one that sent me lengthy letters, but they were just form letters. They weren't personalized. The information wasn't relevant. There was no signature even. It was just literally a form letter printed off and mailed out. The first contact, that's always of interest to me. What's that first way that you're making that impression? Just like I saw when I did first-time inquiries in the past, this was almost always an email. 2 sent postcards, and I was really interested that 2 sent texts as their first contact with a prospect. And both of those texts were telling me I should apply. And both of those were from a college out of state that likely as a transfer student I wouldn't have heard of. So I'm very curious about that process, making a text to someone who didn't request information, who might not know you, being that first touch point. The cadence of messaging was higher than I would have expected for prospects who had never requested information, they never engaged. 8 colleges reached out once per month or less. That seems okay if you're trying to engage them, but 21 reached out weekly or more. The median was 7 total contacts over a period of just shy of 3 months, with 2 in quick succession, and then another one within that first 30-day window. And what was a reversal of the first time undergraduate inquiry results, public institutions actually sent more contacts and in a shorter ComFlow period as well. That median was 1 outreach every 6 days for public institutions versus every 2 weeks for a private institution. So overall, I always like to look at what are the pros, the cons, the highs, the lows. So overall, it was great to see a number of colleges not just sharing student stories, but they shared transfer student stories in particular. None got as granular as a student from the community college I listed, but really that would have just been icing on the cake. There was a clear messaging of transfer scholarships and aid, several highlighted Phi Theta Kappa scholarships in particular, and the texts that were sent were short, they were focused on a single action, and they weren't just emails that had been sent as text or the just checking in text. There are opportunities for improvement, however. So first up, colleges could have made much better use of the data that they had been provided. So if someone's earning an associate degree in biology, you should absolutely speak to the opportunities in biology, or at least the college that houses the biology program at a bare minimum. Only 1 college did out of 39. I also was a little skeptical of texting a prospect as the first point of content. I I really think about texts that you get from companies out of the blue that you didn't request, and especially if you had never heard of them. I may be wrong, and maybe there's data that you have that these are high converting, they work well. So please, if they do, let me know. I'm happy to be wrong there. There was a lot of proposing on the first date as well, and by that I mean that the very first outreach to a prospect isn't a blind date or a getting to know you conversation, but instead they were jumping straight to telling me to apply without knowing anything about the institution. And that might be okay for an inquiry who requested information, came for a visit, applied. There's steps you can take there, but a prospect who in some cases was 12 hours away from the institution, and then first thing you do is, hey, you should apply, warm me up, let me know what your school's about, why I'd be a good fit, things like that. There were also some cases where the comm flow should have been adjusted or shut off. So one college in April was touting their study abroad, encouraged me to see the world. It was the heart of the pandemic, so that was really felt like a mess. There were many more then in May and June who were encouraging me to come to campus when I knew for a fact that their campuses were closed. And in a couple of cases, I had to fly to get there. The volume of contacts, especially when we get to emails, felt very excessive. One college is still emailing me multiple times a week, and I had several where I got emails multiple times a day. Sometimes it was just the same email 2 to 3 times, and sometimes it was different ones. But prospects really need their own comm flow, and too many colleges were behaving as if the student already knew about them, already had requested to be contacted. So one piece of advice that we got from our 2020 student survey that's going to be coming out here ahead of NACAC was that the most common thing students want colleges to know was about the quantity and the quality of emails they've been receiving. 20% of those who were talking about emails referred to college emails as spam. And so I think that's a case of a few bad apples ruining the bunch, but we have to think about what the messaging is and what we want students to take away from the emails. Okay, that's the data side of the piece here. So now I'm going to turn things over to the panel. So you can drop your questions into the question box. I have a few questions here that I'll make sure we get covered. But please, I have a few start off here. So first up, could you all introduce yourself and share your relationship to transfer students?
Mary, you want to go first, and Jolene?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Mary Mercado. I'm Assistant Director at St. Peter's University in Jersey City, New Jersey. We are the only Jesuit institution in New Jersey. My relationship to transfer students is I'm the first point of contact. So I'm doing the outreach, I'm getting to know them and trying to match them up with someone at our university who will be able to help them be successful.
My name is Jolene Young, and I am with Mayo Clinic College of Medicine and Science, primarily admissions rep for Mayo Clinic School of Health Sciences. And we actually really only work with transfer students because majority of our programs, the student has to have at least an associate's degree or be at an affiliated school. So I do most of my work with transfer students.
Hi, I'm Heather Yush. I'm the Associate Director of College and Transfer Relations at Phi Theta Kappa. And I first want to thank Will for all of his efforts to do this secret shopping undertaking to learn more about the transfer student population. Phi Theta Kappa, if you're not familiar with us, we are a 100-plus-year-old honor society, and we're international because we have 1,300 chapters across all 50 states and 11 different countries as well. I've worked all my life in higher ed. I've worked in different ways of serving and supporting transfer students, ranging from as a coach, athletics coach at community colleges, all the way to being a transfer admission counselor on the four-year college side. So I just want to say I'm excited about our panelists today because they both represent schools that are called PTK Partners in Excellence. So St. Peter's University actually made our 2020 PTK transfer honor roll. And then Mayo Clinic, we are so excited that they are providing access to opportunities for transfer-bound community college students through their work to serve and support PTK members. So just a special shout out. And they're both transfer students themselves. So I'm honored to be part of this panel and to learn from you all today.
Thanks. Next up here, I'm curious, how do transfer students differ from first-time students? So what are their strengths and what challenges have you experienced?
I can go ahead and start with that if you'd like. For when I work with the students that are interested in programs as far as transfer students, they usually, at least when they come to us, they do know what program they are interested in, or they might be deciding between two different programs. And so they've kind of done their research on their career that they want to go into, and they know about the requirements, but they might want to know, does this particular course that I took at this community college, will that work to cover your prerequisite? And so I think that's just one big thing. And they're kind of more familiar with the college process because they've done that, potentially that 2-year, or they're finishing up there. So they've kind of know a little bit of that college lingo too when you talk to them.
And for students who I interact with, I take everyone. So I don't necessarily deal with just students who have an associate's degree, even though I prefer, if they are a community college, that they do earn the associate's degree, because the opportunities for additional scholarship monies are theirs for the taking if they come to us with an associate's degree. But at times I see students who only have 15 or 20 credits. So we really do try to make it a seamless process. So I think that transfer students who come in with an associate's degree is definitely a stronger candidate because they've already been through the process. They know about financial aid. They know the importance of filing a FAFSA on time. They understand and are more mature about the academic process, where you have the other students who may have gone to an out-of-state college and now have to come back home because, of financial reasons, or, maybe they didn't do well academically. Those students, I really try to connect with them on a different way because the parent is more in the process as far as, like reaching out about financial aid and courses and, experiences. So I definitely think that the associate's degree holders are definitely more mature. They know what they want, and they are more inclined to, be more open to questions and answer sessions when you meet with them virtually one-on-one.
I think that all I would like to add to this is, Will's question about first-year students versus transfer, or incoming freshmen versus transfer students. I like to look at data as evidenced by the secret shopping, but one big piece of data that came down last year that I think is really relevant to the conversation is there's a persistence report put out by the Jack Kent Cooke Foundation. And so for anyone questioning, whether or not community college students are successful compared to first-time freshmen, that report was very useful in proving that not only are they as successful, but in some cases more successful in terms of their graduation and success rates and their persistence at the 4-year college compared to the native students. So I think that that's an important point to make as well, that these students are going to be successful, that it's not questioned that even at the highest level of the most selective institutions, these students are proving to be successful. So I think that that's really important to highlight as well in this conversation.
Thanks. What information do transfer students need in their recruitment process and their transition? So what are they, what should be the priority there?
I can start on this one. I really like to think about the marketing and the recruitment that goes into that question, Will. And, one of the things that I always think about when I'm trying to figure out how to help 4-year colleges who are serving and supporting these transfer students is the marketing piece and how that fits in. And instead of just jumping in and kind of marketing at or to students, I think that we need to take a step back and listen to what the students are articulating to be their needs and responding to that. So, we're kind of making assumptions and trying to deliver at scale through marketing and recruitment efforts. And I understand that is challenging in itself. So I would just encourage anyone that's working with transfer students to find a way to step back and listen to assess what are the needs instead of making assumptions, because Will kind of mentioned proposing on the first date on one of those slides about the data that was presented in the secret shopping. And I think there's so many opportunities to just learn from the students who you're serving and supporting, whether that's, through a one-on-one conversation, like I know both Mary and Jolene are having with students, probably on Zoom all day, every day. That's a one-person effort in terms of you're spending a lot of time and energy on that one student, but the information that you're gleaning and learning about that individual can be used at scale. So if you're getting to know a Phi Theta Kappa member, you might ask them about, are you a chapter officer? Are you part of a research project that your chapter's involved in? So you can start learning information about that individual, but that might turn into getting invited to a chapter meeting or an induction ceremony to speak to the whole chapter instead of just that one student. So I would just really suggest, that recruiters think about it that way. It is a lot of work on one student, but think about what that could snowball into if that relationship is properly built. So I hope that helps in terms of trying to understand, what the recruitment process could mean for a transfer student.
And I agree with Heather. When I approach a transfer student or potential transfer student, so someone who said, hey, can you send me some information? I try to really connect with them on a personal level. I ask them, like, what's your home situation? Are you working? Are you responsible for anyone? Because these are all going to be factors in the resources I'm going to provide for them, right? So one of those conversations is, are you graduating with your associate's degree? And you try to really commend them for that, because, 89% of students who are first generation economically challenged college students in an urban setting, like we have here in Jersey City, don't graduate with a degree in 6 years. And it's not because they didn't perform well, it's just because, life gets in the way. And so I want to be able to provide these resources to make sure that they are successful. So I try to really find out from them, hey, well, what's your dream job? What's the, we kind of start with the end in mind, so that this way, I'm able to really help direct and guide them and, kind of get them mentors. And I introduce them to other transfer students who've been successful at the institution, so that they don't feel, isolated in any way. Any transfer student who's coming in as a junior has already spent a significant amount of time at another institution, getting to know a certain group of friends. And then, when the commencement is over, they're kind of left by themselves. So I really try to be friendly with that kind of outreach.
And I just have just a couple more things to add. I think with the student population that I'm dealing with not only transferring, but also your more non-traditional adult learners, is they really need to know what the schedule is going to be like, because they have responsibilities outside of, school, whether they're working. And then how do you finance this? What are the options? Because at Mayo Clinic School of Health Sciences, the programs are full-time during the day, and so a lot of them you can't work during. And so if you have someone that's a career changer, or even a transfer student that is maybe took a couple years off and is working, that's going to be another big change for them. And I think just out of any student, I think just building that relationship with them. And we actually, when we get inquiries, because we don't have communication plans set up, they actually are talking to us directly from the beginning, and we are answering every email that comes in personally. And so we're already starting that connection because it's not an automated email that they're getting right now.
I think that actually leads very nicely into the next one here. What type of support systems have you used to help support transfer students in that transition? I think, actually, Mary, you may be a good one to speak to that. You've worked directly with them, and you've had that experience yourself.
Yes. Well, thank you, Will. Yes, for myself, when like right now we're recruiting for the fall of 2020. So I have already reached out to some of my spring 2020 transfer students who are doing well at the institution. And I kind of connect them. I'm like, hey, listen, do you think that you would mind, kind of mentoring an incoming transfer? And most of them are very open to it. I also reach out to the alumni committee office and ask them, hey, is there anyone who's graduated, earlier that would be wanting to mentor someone? Just introduce them to everyone. Send them information on community service, especially if they're a Phi Theta Kappa member. They've already been inclined to devote many hours to community service. I introduced them to the campus kitchen, the closet. The career is most important, because the internships and career services department holds different events. And so I like to introduce them to the career advisor so that this way she can make an appointment with them and kind of get them set up for success as far as interviewing virtually. And I get them to the wellness event office, super important because, you know, being a first semester transfer on a new campus with everything is brand new, you know, they might be using a different set of technology that they are now transitioning to. So, you know, that's a learning process, but I definitely introduce them to the wellness event office, which will definitely be fun for them. Let them know what kind of fun things we have on campus, like yoga and kickboxing classes and things like that, was kind of like stress relievers. But, you know, it's also an opportunity for them to make friends and also to clubs and to study abroad. That's super important because I know that at the community college, most of the time those study abroad opportunities are not really available. And these are opportunities for students to be able to study abroad for an entire semester or a couple weeks. I tried to take advantage of everything, and that's because I went out and I seeked it out myself. So I think that it's super important that I introduce them to everything we have so that they can then be successful themselves.
Jolene, do you want to go?
Well, we don't have clubs or, you know, sports or anything on our campuses. But what we do is we can connect them to the program directors directly. And a lot of times I will get questions because we have different pathways that students can get to a program, whether they come in as through an affiliated school where they're finishing their last 2 years or their last year with us, or if they do get the degree. And so I do have a lot of transfer students that do ask, you know, is the class mainly filled with those people coming from the affiliated school? So typically they're going to be the traditional student, or do you have people coming in with the degree, and does it matter? Is one going to be more competitive than the other? So it's really answering those questions, and the program director is the one that really can help them with that and let them know kind of the class stats, if you will, and making that connection with the program director, because in some schools, you know, students don't have, as a prospective student, you don't have access to that. And so our program directors really want to build the relationship as well with prospective students, whether they're coming or applying right now, or if they're going to apply, you know, in a couple years. And then once they are a student, we can also connect them with many resources at Mayo Clinic. So as students at our school, they also get the resources of employees. And so we have a lot of merge groups that have different topics that they can join as a student so that they can feel part of the community that they're in as well, too.
Anything to add, Heather?
Yeah, I've got a couple resources to mention that we provide through Phi Theta Kappa. Again, we're a nonprofit organization serving hundreds of thousands of students any given year. So our support looks a little different than the four-year college supports. But, you know, I think one of the things that both Mary and Jolene kind of hit upon is the importance of community building and letting the transfer student find their place in their community on whatever campus they end up. So a couple ways that we try to do that through our resources are, which are largely online, especially during the pandemic. We've noticed a significant uptick in the amount of activity and usage by our students of our online resources for obvious reasons. But we always hope to continue to provide those types of membership benefits year round. You know, one of those is we have a suite of courses that we call the Edges. And so any PTK member can get on our website any time of day, any day of the week, and they can complete our courses to learn how to build soft skills, how to transfer, how to be ready for the job and the workforce, how to do research, which is a very imperative skill that they'll need to carry on to places like Mayo or St. Peter's. So we do build out, you know, some online courses for them to take for free as a Phi Theta Kappa member to show, you know, that they're taking initiative to better themselves in their spare time. The other thing is we have PTK Connect, which is a great platform to help them specifically research transfer opportunities. So they can go on there and read all about St. Peter's University or Mayo Clinic and find out what types of scholarships are offered, who is the contact if they actually want to talk to somebody on campus about their transfer. So it really is a great way for students to connect directly with information about the transfer student populations at thousands of different schools, and there's over 800 that are currently offering a PTK scholarship, which we definitely appreciate. So that's just another platform that can really help the student answer that question about what is the community going to be like, because they can actually get a bunch of in-depth stats and information, student reviews, all about these schools, and then hopefully take that step and reach out to one of the recruiters like we're on the call today and find out how to build those even more personal connections at that next level, with a student ambassador or student peer at St. Peter's or with a program director at Mayo. So that's kind of our role and how we see ourselves in terms of the service and support that we provide for students.
Okay, we have a lot more questions here, so if we don't get to all of them, we'll try and reach out after to get to those. First one up here, were there any colleges that called as their first method? No, nobody. I actually received 0 phone calls through the entire process. Do you utilize different comm flows for different populations? So first generation, Phi Theta Kappa, low income, etc. Jolene and Mary. I know I used to when I was on that side of the desk, but
We actually are not, we're working on building our communication flows. But yes, my supervisor, we've already talked about the different populations that we would be targeting for when we get those set in place.
Well, our communications are all sent through our CRMs called Slate. And those are generated through the different needs of the student. So if we have someone who is interested in evening and online, then we reach out to them with the flexibility of the 8-week courses, as well as having some online and hybrid opportunities where those messages do not go to the traditional day students. The traditional day students get a different messaging with inviting them to different virtual events and, like Happy Division 1, like all of those things that would interest a traditional day student. So they're 2 completely different outreaches.
yeah. So
Well, I think veteran students are another population that I think there's some pretty specific comm flows out there from what I can see in working with 4-year colleges. So the veteran and military students, I think that is a special population of students also that are highlighted, as well as dual enrolled, younger early college type students as well. So I do know that there are schools that are doing really successful things at kind of separating out subpopulations of transfer students.
yeah. So one person mentioned that they've had a lot of success with phone calls. Do either of you use phone calls, and are you having success with them? Are they well received?
We don't make calls. There will be times when someone prefers a phone call, and so then we do, but we do not have staff right now to be making phone calls from everyone that we get inquiries to. Our main reach out is through email currently, and then we're doing the virtual visits.
And for myself, I have a partner. Her name is Athena. She's the phone call queen. So I will reach out to them electronically. And if they request a call or, they say, hey, well, listen, I want to actually speak to someone, then she usually reaches out to them. A couple hours. She spends a week doing that.
Here's a really good one. So for Mary and Jolene again here, how do you handle transcript evaluations? Is that done in the admissions office, registrar, a mixture?
I do them. Every student I speak to, which is mostly electronically, I'll be like, well, hey, I know that you're interested. I don't want you to apply yet. Let me look at your transcript first. And I'll ask them for an unofficial. They can send me a photograph, anything, just so that I could see, what institutions they've been to and how their GPA is, and kind of be a better advising, because if they are more suited to raise their GPA to get additional scholarship monies, I would definitely encourage them to finish at the community college before they come as a transfer student, because the money is, between $5,000 and $6,000 difference if they come in with a certain GPA versus, a PTK GPA. So, I do all of the evaluations and I do all of the preliminary credit evaluations, which means that every student I talk to that has applied and been accepted, and even if they haven't been accepted and they're just considering us, I will do an evaluation for them. So between me and my partner, I think we've done 300 already this semester. And so then, from there, if they decide, that we're the right fit for them, then of course we encourage them to apply.
Myself will do some transcript evaluations. The programs will do their evaluations as well. And then actually, since we work with affiliated schools, they will keep those students that are on track. They'll make sure that they're on track to get into our programs or be ready to apply to our programs if they choose that route. And then we do have kind of a one-off where we work with the University of Minnesota Rochester. And if a student is interested in there's particularly 4 programs, then they would do the transcript evaluation because the prerequisites are a little bit different. So we kind of have a hodgepodge of people that will do transcript evaluations for our programs.
So this is one that I think actually Heather and I'll start off, but what are some of the sources for finding transfer prospects and recruiting? They can be hard to target, hard to find. I know I can speak for Niche. We have a lot of students who use Niche to research, opt in. They have a backpack where they track what colleges they're considering, and so that's one option. Heather, you can speak to Phi Theta Kappa.
Sure, yeah, PTK Connect, which I referenced earlier as a tool that the students are using to research their transfer, is also a two-way street, so it's interactive in terms of four-year colleges can also log into PTK Connect and they can search for students who would be best fit prospects for their institution. So they can filter on things, as Will mentioned, biology majors or students of a certain age. They can even drill down to like international students versus US citizens. And we, definitely serve and support undocumented students as well. So there's all types of filters and fun that you can find in PTK Connect to build and customize a search, that's really getting at the type of students that your institution is able and willing and interested in serving and supporting. But you're right, it's tough to come by if you, just stick to the general ways of hoping people find you on the website and fill out an interest form, or going to a community college back in the day when we could physically visit them. That was another way to obviously obtain leads for students or prospects. So, we really try to help introduce more colleges to more Phi Theta Kappa members by creating this resource called PTK Connect. Great question. Thank you for asking. And hopefully anyone that's interested would be willing to contact me afterwards if you want to learn more about that.
Any additional ones, Mary or Julie?
We use something called Raise Me as well as PTK Connect. I have to say PTK Connect is a fantastic resource because you have a great pool of students who have a certain GPA and you know that they're already doing well. They want to earn the associate's degree. So that's like the cream of the crop right there. So we definitely use that. And we also really try to engage our community college partners. Letting them know what events we have, what office hours we offer, and letting them know what kind of opportunities we do have for transfers. Because, at the end of the day, the community college wants to know that you're going to be servicing the student the right way, the same way they were. So I think that by letting them know everything that you do have to offer, they are more open to sending you students. I mean, I have professors from my old community college that reach out all the time. And I'm like, hey, listen, just so you know, we're doing this, we're doing that. They're like, wow, that's fantastic. So I think just keeping them in the loop, they are more often and more likely to say, hey, well, listen, I have a student in my class. He's interested in transferring, reach out to him. So I do get a lot of leads that way. And we also use something that's kind of brand new to us called Raise Me, which kind of gives like points and buckets to high school and to community college students for transfer scholarship dollars. So the more they do, the more money they are able to earn.
So here's a good one. We usually start ComFlows, the school, not me, but the school usually starts their ComFlows to fall transfer students in January. Should they be reaching out to them sooner? Is that too soon? What's your take?
Well, for us, we Honestly, we reach out to people all year long because we have programs that their application cycles are all different. They have different start dates. So we are honestly recruiting any time of the year just so that we can make sure that we can fill the programs that are off from the traditional college application cycle. So I know that's different for the traditional, but for us, we have to do it all year round.
And we're a private institution, so we have rolling admissions. So we have students that are now applying already for the spring of 2021. So it's never too early. And I'd like to, like I said, I like to look at the unofficial transcript just to make sure I kind of point them in the right direction for a very successful and seamless transfer process.
Yeah, I would say the only thing I'd add is if they reach out now, don't wait to talk to them till January.
That's right.
Right.
Yep. How do you work with reverse transfers regarding affordability and scholarships?
We don't do that at our institution.
Well, St. Peter's does. We do have reverse transfer because at times there are students who are kind of in a conundrum where they're missing 1 or 2 classes that are not offered until the following cycle, which means that we, with those strong community college partnerships, we're able to send those credits back once they've already been taken at our institution, which means that they are then able to get their associate's degree from our community college partners. So we definitely encourage that because, we don't want the student to kind of sit around and wait the whole spring semester when they could have been earning credits until the fall.
And who should be the first point of contact? So when a student reaches out, who should make that first contact to them?
As far as the four-year college staff, I'm assuming is what the question is, Will?
Yeah, I think that's the, yep, I think that's the
Okay,
intention.
just making sure I answered the actual question that's being asked. But yeah, I think on different campuses, that's going to have to vary because, some large public institutions might have an entire team of transfer student recruiters, broken down by major or last name or, whatever it's going to be at that institution. So I think a little bit of it's just structural. But, in my previous role, I was the only transfer admission counselor that was actually going out and recruiting. So my territory was the country. It wasn't a state or a city or a community college. It was a country. So in my case, I was always kind of the front door, the first friendly face that you would see and meet. So I think most schools hopefully have some sort of structure and have that figured out as to who it should be, just based on their staffing. But I don't know if either of you have creative ideas on who it should be. I guess I'm speaking more about structurally who it probably is. But I think anybody that's sensitive to the needs of transfer students and can understand that they have compelling stories and that they're truly inspiring people, that anybody that's willing to appreciate and respect that and learn more about these students and their needs and can be able to put them in contact with resources and next steps. I'm not sure if there's a wrong answer in terms of what department they would fall in, but hopefully those are the types of people that they are meeting first. What do you guys think on that one?
I would say me is the same as you were. I do the whole country. So people do come to me first. I do like that because I can build that relationship, let them know pretty much any information that they want to know about Mayo Clinic, about, Rochester. And then if it gets into where they're asking very specific information about a program, that's when we want to give them over to the program director, because we do want to, make sure that we stay in contact with these people and capture their information so that we can follow up after we do let them get in contact with the program director, because we know the program directors, that's not their main duty in their job, but they do help us answer the questions that we are not able. So I think just if you want to maintain that relationship, it goes through me so that we can follow up and we know where the student is in their pathway to getting to that program.
Agreed, Jolie. There's only myself and another transfer advisor. Her name is Athena. So we're the wonder team of two. Anyone who's looking for a transfer would usually contact myself or Athena. However, we have cross-trained our freshman advisors that if they do, if they're checking the admissions mailbox and they see someone who has potential transfer questions, to just send them over. And anytime I respond to a transfer student, I always include my partner. This way, the transfer student is aware that, if I'm on vacation or, that they do have another point of contact and they're not lost in the mix, and that, she understands what I'm reaching out to them and I understand what she's reaching out to the other student as well. And because I went to St. Peter's and she did not, I could probably provide more insight and resources to the student than someone who did not attend the school.
So I don't know if either of you, Jolene or Mary, have you ever taught a transfer sort of incoming student seminar before?
I have not.
I have not, but I've been working closely with the orientation team, because I believe that in the past they were lumping in the associate's degrees with the freshmen, and I think that the needs are completely different. Where the transfer students don't have a need for at least 55% of the information that they're providing. And I want them to be able to break up into smaller groups and have them meet with career and those types of people who are going to be able to help them get to where they're going. So to land an internship, to make sure their resume is up to date, to make them familiar with our online job postings and research opportunities that are available for students. And that's something that a freshman student would not need to know yet. So I've been working with the orientation advisor to make sure that we are able to offer two different types of orientations.
You're actually getting exactly what the question was. Travis was asking what are important for transfer students to know. He had taught a class like that in the past, and some students found the topic to be really beneficial. Others felt there were things they needed to know. Sounds like focusing heavily on the hands-on experiences, career prep, things like that. Let's see. How would you message and communicate to prospective students major information if your institution doesn't require an associate degree to transfer, and if the academic programs actually don't even recognize an associate degree? I would say that you'll still know what the student's interested in studying, so you still speak to that. I don't know if that's something that you have other thoughts, other feelings.
So is the question is if they're undecided and they don't have the degree
sounds
yet?
It sounds like mostly that the academic programs don't recognize associate degrees. I mean, you would still know what majors there are. So you can still speak to those. It'll definitely be a different process than if someone already has an associate's. But
Yeah, we require either an associate or a bachelor's degree for a majority of our programs, so we don't have something that a student could come into without, unless it was like our phlebotomy or pharmacy tech. So I don't think I could answer that accurately.
And at St. Peter's, we consider a transfer student any student who has attended another college or university and has earned 12 college credits and is in good standing. So even if they have like a, whatever minimum it is for that program that they want to seek out, as long as they fit in with that criteria, we will definitely always give them a transfer scholarship. So those run from 14 to 25,000, but the 23 and 25,000 are strictly for associate's degrees, which is why if they're attending a local community college, I always encourage them to complete the degree and then transfer over, because the money is way better at the associate's degree level. But yeah, we take everyone.
Okay, and we're almost out of time here, so I have one last one. Thank you to everybody. Just want to remind you that the recording of this will be up on the Enrollment Insights blog this afternoon. Everyone will get an email in the morning that will have the link to all the resources. But last question here, are program-specific articulation pathways between community colleges and four-year colleges valuable tools for transfer students and as a recruiting tool for admissions counselors. Ending on a small idea there, right?
Yes, but most definitely, we have tons of articulation agreements with most of the community colleges in New Jersey that say that we take up to 66 transfer credits from community college, and we don't really give electives, so we really try to find a fit for whatever they took at the community college to fit right into their either core curriculum or their major that they're seeking. For our paraprofessional programs, which are programs that we offer with other institutions, we definitely try to make sure that we explain to the student, somebody who's seeking up clinical labs or radiography or something like that, specialty program. We're very upfront about the chances, or I should say the percentages of students, transfer students who actually make it into those programs, which most of the time it's pretty low if you think about it, because they're going to give those opportunities to their students first. And then, if they have any seats left over, then, the articulation agreement would kick in. However, I will say that most of my community college partners are very eager to give us their transfer students because they know that we are going to be able to set them up for success. So I think it's just building that trust and relationship with our partners. So my home school is actually the school I graduated from, so I kind of already know everybody, which is a good thing. So anytime I have any really good news, they're very happy to share it on their website as well as their publications that go throughout the campus.
And I think with us, we have affiliation agreements. We don't set a certain number that we're going to take from this institution because, like our radiography program has 8 affiliates. And so it's not that we're going to take a certain number from each of those. It's more of, it's still, everyone has to apply, and they, then it's based on, the most competitive applicant. But definitely the affiliate institutions really help us. Our local community college, Rochester Technical and Community College, they get a lot of students in there, and whether they're going to transfer into like the University of Minnesota Rochester and come to us, or if they're going to complete their associate's degree, they are a very good partner with helping us get students on the right track to fill, our programs as well. So I really like working with the affiliation or affiliated schools, because we build not only the relationship with that school and their advisors, but also with the students that they send to us.
I think that the articulation agreement question too is really important as far as thinking of it as a partnership. And, the part about the question was, is this a good relationship builder? I couldn't think of a better kind of show of goodwill and good faith than to go to the neighboring community college or one out of state, even if you wanted to get creative, and build a relationship and a partnership to show, that they're not stealing or poaching students from a community college campus, that this is an actual pathway for the student to follow, to be efficient with credit transfer, to be a good investment, for the student, especially maybe students that are lower income background. This can be a tremendous impactful thing for a student. So I would encourage anyone who's thinking about articulation to really put a lot of intentional thought and effort into it, because it can lead to some pretty amazing outcomes for students, which is what we're all here for. So just that endorsement, that sense of security that if I do X, then I will get Y, that I think that's really, really important for these students in especially now in this environment that we're all in.
Well, thank you, Mary.